Okay, folks, the internet's in an uproar today as Scott Adams of Dilbert fame has introduced into his Dilbert strip the first black Dilbert character. That's right, there has not been a recurring black Dilbert character in all of its decades of being in print. Now, why is that? Scott Adams has actually explained that several times, and the reason is this. Every one of his characters has a fundamental flaw. Wally, for example, is lazy. The boss, of course, is totally dense. Now, if Scott, a white comic book artist, cartoonist, were to create a black character with a flaw, it would seem like he was punching down. So he's never really wanted to go into that space. The only time that he's successfully gone into that space is with Asok the intern, and Asok's flaw is that he's young and inexperienced and kind of naive. But that can apply to anybody. That's not a race thing. So for him to have that quality is not perceived as being any kind of racist type of thing. Now, today, Scott has introduced his new character, Dave, who is based loosely on his own brother. And not that his brother is black, of course his brother's white too, but the personality of Dave is such that Dave will screw with you and you don't know whether he's being serious or not. This is according to Scott Adams' explanation of the character. And true to form, Dave comes roaring right out of the gate. There is a 3-panel cartoon. Most of Scott Adams' Dilbert cartoons are like 3 or 4 panels, in which the boss introduces Dave as basically a diversity hire. And then Dave says, "I identify as white." And the boss is like, "You're not helping, Dave. You're ruining everything." Now, the irony that I've seen about the complaints about this cartoon online is that a lot of them are actually coming from trans people. And why? Because Dave says, "I identify as white." And of course, identification is one of the big buzzwords with trans ideology. Now, it's so remarkable, though, that this group of people looked at this completely racial joke cartoon and translated it into their own inner world. They made this about being trans. It wasn't about being trans. There was nothing about being trans in the entire comic strip there. It was all about what happens when your diversity hire won't play along. And it's just absolutely hilarious. In fact, it goes a level of hilarious further when you realize that Dilbert in some newspapers is printed in black and white. So when you see Dave for the first time, you look at his goatee, and he's bald, and so there's a little bit of stereotypicalness in there, but at the same time, you can't really tell whether he's black or white or what. and people are actually saying, it's like, "Oh, Scott didn't realize this was going to happen." Yeah, I'm sure. He's only been doing cartoons for like the past 30 years. I'm totally sure that he didn't know that his black character is going to show up, as white in certain newspapers that don't show color. Yeah, that I'm absolutely sure that totally slipped his mind. Oh, man. But the idea that the trans lobby would actually be taking offense with this is hilarious, because in a stretch of irony, you realize that there is kind of a reverse karma kind of thing going on here, because there have been several times when on the racial side, people in the black community and other minority communities have perceived things to be racial attacks when they haven't been. In fact, Amala Ekpanobi, on her new channel, Unapologetic, you can subscribe to that on YouTube, she works for Dennis Prager at PragerU, and she has reviewed a BuzzFeed article just recently talking about 21 rules that black people live by that white people don't have to live by. But she herself, who is black, half white, looks at these rules and says, most of these are like good common sense things that everybody should follow. I mean, it's not even about whether you should do it or not, no matter who you are. This is not a racial thing. For example, dealing with the police, put your hands where the police officer can see them and make sure that your registration is out. It's like, that's what I do. That's what I started doing the first time I ever heard of that. It's like, this is just a good idea. It's a good, solid idea. But you have to ask yourself, how many times have black people have people of whatever racial persuasion looked at some sort of slight or offense or a joke or something and taken that to mean that's a racial attack. And now something that is explicitly about race is being taken by the trans lobby to be an attack on trans people. The irony is just killer. It's wonderful. So I can't wait to see where this goes. This whole week of Dilbert comics is just looking like it's going to be a complete fun fest. I'm just get your popcorn out and enjoy the show. I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.